Okay, we're back. When we assume that technology is all about progress, we risk ignoring the downsides. And every technology has a trade off. Every technology that we use has pros and cons. In this class, we're going to talk about 5 things. And those 5 things, those pros and cons of technology, will create the segments of our class. And so I want to read those 5 things really quick for you right now so that you kind of understand where we're going. So these 5 things were developed by a guy named Neil Postman. Neil Postman is what we call a media ecologist. We'll talk more about that later. But essentially, a media ecologist studies how media affects social systems, identities, cultures. It could be anything from politics to religion. Any sort of social infrastructure is influenced by technology. And these media ecologists look at that and comment on that and point out the pros and cons and things like that. So Neil Postman is one of these guys. And he gave a speech in I think it was 99, and identified the 5 lessons or the 5 takeaways from any technological change. And these are the 5. And again, we'll study these all through the course of the term of the semester. So you can, we'll dive deep into these, but here they are just to set them up. Number 1, all technology is a trade-off. 2, advantages and disadvantages of new technologies are never distributed equally. 3rd, behind every technology is a powerful idea, or an idea that when we use a technology, we accept that powerful idea into our lives. Number 4, technology is not additive, it's ecological. So it doesn't just change one thing or add one thing to the social system, it changes the entire social system. The last is technology becomes mythic. And there's different ways that mythic is described here, but mythic just means that it is its own narrative for usage. And anyway, we'll talk about that more. But those are the 5 that will be the most of what we talk about during the term of the semester. Okay. These principles from Niels Postman help us think critically about technology. For example, who benefits from social media? Who is left behind? What ideas are embedded in search engines or recommendation algorithms? I'll show you some examples of those things too. Another example, let's take TikTok. It appears to be a neutral platform for entertainment and expression, but it also produces short attention spans, rewards specific types of content, and quietly teaches us what counts as valuable behavior online. And that's just one small example of that. Okay. All right. Technology is ecological. Let's talk about that just for a second. We don't just live with technology, we live in technology. Media theorists call this media ecology. We just talked about that. Hopefully that concept makes sense. So technology shape our daily routines, our relationships, and even our sense of self. Once a technological tool is integrated into our everyday lives, it becomes part of our cognitive and cultural environment. There's a theory out there called technological determinism. So the technologies that we use, according to this theory, influence and shape the way that we see the world around us, how we interact with the world, our perceptions of ourselves and the people around us. Technological determinism, that's the theory. Okay. Example, think about Zoom. Before the pandemic, it was a niche business tool. People used it, but not very often. Now, Zoom, what's the one from Microsoft? Teams. It's a part of classrooms, it's part of meetings, it's even friendships. It's used as a verb. Students ask me all the time, can I zoom in to class? Okay. It's already altered how we perform presence, how we manage fatigue, and how we communicate intimacy, all through just one example, okay? You don't notice your phone a lot of times until your battery dies. Then you realize how deeply it's embedded in your life. A lot of you may have taken 101. Hopefully all of you have taken 101. And in that 101 class, you probably did a media diary or a media fast. And when you do those two assignments, the idea is for you to understand how embedded technology is in your life. So think about that experience, what you learned from that experience, and then apply that into this concept of ecology, because that's exactly what we're talking about. Okay, so far we've talked about what is technology, how we integrate in technology and culture. We talked about technology, the ecology of technology, but I want to just take a second here and talk about what is not technology. Okay, so we'll reverse that. What isn't technology? Is a chair technology? What about a staircase? What about a story? What about the room that you're sitting in? What about the clothes that you're wearing? Okay. In a broader, the broader our definition of technology, the more we realize that human life is inseparable from invention. Someone invented the chair, someone invented a staircase, someone invented a story. All those things were inventions. The room around you, an invention. The clothes that you wear is an invention. Okay? We are surrounded by designed systems. Let me say that again. We are surrounded by designed systems, and those systems, once created, start to shape us in return. Okay? And that includes the house that you live in, the car that you drive, the clothes that you wear. Those are all nonverbal objectics. So if you've taken any nonverbal classes or had a discussion of that in your classes, you can apply that back in as well. But it says something about who we are, our place in society, how we live, how we function, and everything that happens within our ecology. Okay, so far we've talked about a couple things. Let me just go back one more time and review. We've talked about what is technology. We've discussed technology as being cultural. We've talked about inventions and how inventions work, the assumptions embedded within technology, the ecological nature of technology, what isn't technology, and I think the answer to that question is everything is. If something is invented, it's a technology. And then that takes us to the end of our discussion of technology. Hope it's been interesting to you. Hopefully you've been able to think about things. So now I want you can end this video and go to Learning Suite under Knowledge Check or Technology Knowledge Check number 2 and answer the questions that are there. Once you've done that, I think we'll be ready for our discussion in class and the application of these technological principles and applying those in more of a kind of hands-on mentored sort of way. So thanks, and we'll see you in class.